Hi everyone, I'm CHOWDHURY SADMAN JAHIR. Now I'm going to review a documentary film, Years of Living Dangerously, which is an American documentary television series focusing on global warming. The first season was broadcast in US in 2014 on Showtime, and the second season aired on the National Geography channel in 2016. The weekly episodes of Years of Living Dangerously featured celebrities, hosts with a history of environmental activism, and well-known journalists with a background in environmental reportage. These correspondents travel the world to interview experts and ordinary people affected by and seeking solutions to the effects of global warming. Episodes explored the effects of rising sea level, historic flooding, water scarcity, ocean acidification, deforestation, and many more. One of the episodes was about how Bangladesh is affected by global warming. On June 2, 2014, Michael Carriel Hall, an American actor, musician, and producer, travels to Bangladesh to see how climate change will impact workers and the poor developing country like Bangladesh in the coming decades. When a projected 150 million people will be forced to leave their homes to escape sea level rise and flooding.
Inside the air-conditioned, airbrushed world of Hollywood, climate change isn't something you have to think about too much, unless you really want to. But I know I'm living in a bubble, and I know there are places outside my bubble where climate change is impossible to ignore. At the top of that list is Bangladesh, where I've heard that climate change is a matter of life and death.
Michael C. Hall finds that in low-lying, flood-prone and densely populated Bangladesh, sea level rise and the expansion of the monsoon season, both caused by global warming, have already caused a migration of coastal people to the capital city Dhaka and on other cities because they have lost their homes or livelihoods. These factors are projected to lead to the displacement of 20 million of Bangladeshi by year of 2100.
I feel like I'm seeing the city with new eyes. I'm still overwhelmed by the sheer number of people here, and it's hard to imagine what this place will be like when there are millions more. It also occurs to me that these Bangladeshis have done almost nothing to cause global warming, especially compared to an American like me. But it looks like they'll have to pay a much steeper price.
In the documentary shows that every day between 1000 to 2000 people move to Dhaka, the Bangladeshi capital. A 2012 study of 1500 Bangladeshi families migrating to cities, mainly Dhaka, showed that almost of all of them cited that changing environment as the biggest reason for their decision. Most of these arriving in Dhaka end up in urban slums around the edge of the city with basic housing condition and very high population density and poor sanitation. 2/3 of Bangladesh is less than 5 meters above sea level. 28% of the population of Bangladesh lives on the coast, where the primary driver of displacement is tidal flooding caused by sea level rise. By the end of 2050, with a projected 50 centimeter rise in sea level, Bangladesh may lose approximately 11% of its land, affecting an estimated 15 million people living in its low-lying coastal region. The process of salination has been intensified by rising sea level. Coastal drinking water supplies have been contaminated with salt, leaving the 33 million people who rely on such sources vulnerable to health problems such as childbirth, lung infection, and skin diseases.
And there's another threat to the crops that we can't even see. Salt.
What happens is when the cyclone hits, salt water is pushed further north into the areas which were otherwise very arable and giving good crops.
In 2009, Cyclone Isla pushed salt water so far inland that 5 years later, much of it is still there. And the rising sea level only makes this worse.
So a cyclone not only destroys the trees and the infrastructure, but also the agricultural crops.
This documentary also focused how the agriculture of Bangladesh affected by the global warming. Agriculture, the mainstay of Bangladesh economy, is also badly affected, and crops damaged by rising salinity are doubly at risk from the resulting soil degradation. Many regions have already suffered large yield losses and significant price reduction as a result. In the end, Michael H. Hall concludes his journey to Bangladesh, where rising seas are expected to submerge 17% of the country, and he learns that global warming is a human rights, public health, and foreign policy issue.
At the end of my trip, I share a meal with Shahidul. Soon, we're both going back to Dhaka. But really, we're heading in opposite directions. I'm on my way home, and he's leaving his. He was only able to visit his family for a few days. It's hard not to think about how different our lives are. It feels like we're in totally different worlds. But I've seen how connected those worlds actually are. Because what my country puts into the air is affecting more and more people like him.
After watching this documentary, one individual can understand how the world is connected, how we are responsible for global warming, and because of us, people of other side of the world are facing the impacts of global warming. At the end, I would like to say we should focus on the greenhouse effects because this is high time to be concerned about global warming, or else the world and the people of the world will suffer in near future.